Court documents have just blown the lid off Prince Harry's carefully crafted image, and Meghan Markle is reportedly staggering from what she has discovered about the man she married. For years, the narrative has been simple. Harry was the gentle, sensitive prince manipulated by his ambitious American wife. He was the victim, the puppet, the man who lost his entire family because one woman pulled his strings. But folks, the truth emerging from these legal proceedings tells a radically different story, and it is one that should make everyone reconsider everything they thought they knew about the Duke of Sussex. According to staff members who have finally broken their silence, Prince Harry is incredibly hot-headed behind closed doors. We are not talking about occasional frustration or mild irritability. We are talking about explosive outbursts that allegedly leave everyone around him walking on eggshells. One insider described it bluntly: Harry can just explode without warning, and when he does, there is no predicting what will happen next. The courtroom revealed this pattern in excruciating detail, with the judge himself having to reprimand the prince for his behavior during proceedings. But here is where it gets truly jaw-dropping. During a break in the proceedings, a QC had to physically pull Harry aside and deliver a message that should shock anyone who thought this man was the passive partner in his marriage. The lawyer reportedly told him directly to shut up and behave, because his conduct was not coming over well at all. Let that sink in for a moment. A grown man, a prince of the realm, the sixth in line to the British throne, had to be told like a petulant child to control himself in a court of law. And this is the same man who lectures the world about mental health and emotional intelligence. Sources close to the situation say Meghan was absolutely blindsided by these revelations. She had constructed her entire understanding of Harry based on his public persona, the wounded prince desperate for escape, the gentle soul who just wanted to protect his family. But the court documents painted a picture of someone far more complicated, far more volatile, and far more similar to his father and grandfather than he would ever want to admit. The irony is staggering when you consider how many times Harry has positioned himself as different from the institution he fled. And then there is Chelsea Davy, the name Harry's legal team desperately wanted to invoke, the ex-girlfriend they hoped would corroborate their claims. But what emerged about that relationship has reportedly left Meghan questioning everything she thought she knew about her husband's romantic history. The patterns that destroyed Harry's relationship with Chelsea are now impossible to ignore, and sources say the parallels to Meghan's current situation are haunting the Montecito mansion in ways nobody anticipated. The woman who thought she knew her husband is discovering she may have married a stranger. In April of 2025, Meghan Markle sat down with podcasters and declared with absolute conviction that she was the happiest she has ever been. She painted a picture of domestic bliss, of a marriage strengthened by adversity, of two people who had found their fairy tale ending far from the palace that tried to destroy them. It was a masterclass in public relations, delivered with the practiced ease of someone who has spent years crafting her narrative. But insiders tell a completely different story, and the gap between Meghan's public declarations and her private reality has never been wider. For years, the accepted narrative has centered on Meghan as the puppet master. She was the ambitious actress who saw an opportunity and seized it. She was the one controlling Harry's wardrobe, his posture, his hand-holding, his every public movement. And to be fair, there is substantial evidence supporting this characterization. Former staff members have confirmed that Meghan allegedly dictated everything about their public appearances, from coordinated outfits to mandatory displays of affection. One source described it as a level of image control that would make professional publicists blush. But here is where the story gets complicated, and frankly far more interesting. Ex-staff members are now revealing that Harry has his own dangerous patterns of behavior, patterns that existed long before Meghan Markle ever entered his life. This is not a case of an innocent prince corrupted by an ambitious wife. This is two deeply complicated people whose dysfunction has created a perfect storm of chaos. Allow me to translate what insiders are really saying. The Sussexes are not a story of victim and villain. They are two people whose worst tendencies have amplified each other in devastating ways. The court case brought all of this into sharp focus. Harry's legal team reached out to Chelsea Davy, hoping she would help corroborate his claims about media intrusion and the pain it caused his relationships. It seemed like a reasonable strategy. Chelsea had been there during some of Harry's most scrutinized years. She had experienced the paparazzi harassment firsthand. She would make a sympathetic witness who could speak to Harry's suffering. But what emerged in the documents painted a troubling picture that had nothing to do with media intrusion and everything to do with who Harry really is as a partner. The revelations about why Chelsea really left Harry are now reportedly echoing through that Montecito mansion. According to sources familiar with their relationship, Chelsea did not simply reject royal life. She rejected life with Harry specifically. The distinction is crucial, and Meghan is allegedly struggling to process what it means for her own future. The man who promised her freedom, who told her they would escape the constraints of the palace together, turns out to have his own ideas about control and submission, and those ideas are now impossible to ignore. Nobody could make Prince Harry behave in court. Not the judge, not his own legal team, not anyone. That single fact should tell you everything you need to know about the man behind the carefully curated public image. During proceedings that should have been straightforward, that should have allowed Harry to present his case with dignity and restraint, the prince allegedly went completely off script in ways that damaged his own cause. His refusal to stick to the plot became so disruptive that it threatened to derail the entire legal strategy his team had carefully constructed. Sources inside the courtroom described scenes of barely controlled chaos. Harry would answer questions he was not asked. He would volunteer information that hurt his case. He would editorialize when simple answers were required. His lawyers were reportedly exchanging panicked glances as their client repeatedly ignored their preparation and went rogue. One observer noted that it was like watching someone systematically sabotage their own legal proceedings in real time. The man who claims to be misunderstood and misrepresented was doing more damage to his reputation than any tabloid ever could. The moment that allegedly shocked everyone came during a recess. Judge Nicol had already reprimanded Harry for his conduct, a humiliation that would mortify most people into compliance. But Harry reportedly continued his disruptive behavior until someone had to physically pull him aside and deliver a message that should have been unnecessary for a man approaching 40 years of age. Listen, shut up, behave. This is not coming over very well. Those words, spoken by a QC to a prince of the realm, capture the absurdity of what was happening inside that courtroom. Let us be brutally honest here. This explosive behavior is not an anomaly. It is not the result of courtroom stress or media pressure, or any of the excuses that will inevitably be manufactured to explain it away. Staff members confirm that this is a pattern that has existed for years behind palace walls. Harry has moments of explosion that catch everyone off guard. He cannot control himself when things do not go his way, and the people closest to him have learned to fear these outbursts because there is no predicting when they will happen or how severe they will be. The courtroom meltdown reveals something fundamental about Harry's character that contradicts everything he has said about himself publicly. This is a man who has lectured millions about emotional regulation, about therapy, about doing the work to heal childhood trauma. He has positioned himself as an expert on mental wellness, someone who has processed his pain and emerged stronger. But when faced with the pressure of legal proceedings, when the stakes were high and his future was on the line, all of that alleged growth evaporated. The mask slipped, and what emerged was someone his staff members have apparently known about for years. But the courtroom was not the only place Meghan learned uncomfortable truths about her husband. The Chelsea Davy revelations emerging from these documents have reportedly shaken her understanding of who Harry really is, and the implications for her own marriage are impossible to ignore. Meghan Markle could not bear to hear stories about Harry's ex. This detail, confirmed by multiple sources over the years, reveals a particular kind of insecurity that made the court document revelations especially devastating. According to those familiar with the situation, Meghan allegedly hated any mention of Chelsea Davy and would change the subject immediately whenever the name came up. But the legal proceedings forced her to confront the full truth about Harry's past relationship, and what she discovered has reportedly left her reeling. The real reason Chelsea Davy walked away from Prince Harry had nothing to do with rejecting royal life. Let that sink in for a moment, because it contradicts the narrative that has been pushed for over a decade. Chelsea supposedly could not handle the pressure of being a royal girlfriend. Chelsea was too free-spirited for palace constraints. Chelsea wanted a normal life, but according to sources who were actually there, the truth is far more damning. She rejected the man. She saw something in Harry that made her run, and she never looked back. The court documents revealed a detail that should make anyone reassess Harry's character. He allegedly did not want Chelsea to have an outside life. The prince, who would later mock Catherine for being trapped, who would criticize the entire royal family for their constrained existence, was himself demanding that his girlfriend abandon her own ambitions and exist solely in his orbit. Chelsea had developed a new life in Leeds. She had career aspirations. She had an identity separate from being Prince Harry's girlfriend. And according to sources, Harry could not tolerate any of it. The hypocrisy here is absolutely staggering. This is the same man who built his entire post-royal brand on the concept of freedom. He claimed the palace trapped people. He said royals were prisoners of duty. He positioned himself as someone who escaped captivity and wanted to liberate others, but his own relationship history tells a completely different story. Harry allegedly expected Chelsea to organize her entire existence around him, to abandon her own dreams and serve his needs, to become exactly the kind of submissive partner he would later criticize the royal institution for creating. One insider put it bluntly: Harry had a Victorian idea of what a relationship should be, except he was supposed to be the center of everything, while his partner sacrificed all independence. As the most famous bachelor in the world, he reportedly believed women should feel honored just to be with him. Their careers, their friendships, their personal development should all take a backseat to his needs and his schedule and his moods. When Chelsea refused to play that role, when she chose her own life over his demands, the relationship collapsed. Sources say Meghan is now examining her own situation through this lens, and the parallels are impossible to ignore. The woman who thought she was the one controlling the narrative is discovering she may be living the exact life Harry once demanded of Chelsea, just with better marketing. Remember when Harry told the world that the royals were trapped? It was one of the most memorable moments from the Oprah interview, this wounded prince describing his family as prisoners of an institution that controlled their every move. "William is trapped," he declared with apparent sympathy. "Catherine is trapped. My father is trapped. Everyone is trapped except him, the enlightened one who had escaped to California and found freedom." It was compelling television, and millions of people believed every word. But the court documents reveal a truth that makes this entire narrative crumble into dust. Harry is the one who wanted to trap his partners. The irony is so thick you could choke on it. While publicly mourning the constraints placed on his brother and sister-in-law, Harry was allegedly demanding the exact same submission from his own girlfriends. While crying about palace control and emotional manipulation, he was reportedly subjecting Chelsea Davy to the very dynamics he claimed to despise. The cognitive dissonance required to maintain this contradiction is genuinely impressive, if you think about it. This man has made millions selling himself as someone who escaped captivity, all while allegedly demanding that others surrender their freedom to him. Let us break down the hypocrisy, because it deserves careful examination. Harry criticized Catherine for losing her personality after joining the royal family. He suggested she had become robotic and controlled, a shell of the vibrant woman she once was. He implied that William had been complicit in this transformation, that their marriage was a gilded cage. But what did Harry allegedly demand of Chelsea? According to sources, he wanted her to abandon her career, relocate based on his preferences, and make him the center of her universe. How exactly is that different from what he accused the palace of doing? The ego that shaped young Harry becomes clearer when you examine this pattern. As the most famous bachelor in the world, he existed in a bubble of yes-men and adoring fans. Women threw themselves at him. The media chronicled his every move with breathless fascination. He was handsome, wealthy, royal, and exciting. Why would any woman not want to sacrifice everything for the privilege of being with him? This was allegedly his mindset, and it explains both why Chelsea left and why Meghan's current situation feels increasingly familiar. Sources say Meghan is now realizing she is living the exact life Harry once demanded of Chelsea, just with a different costume. Sure, she gets to launch businesses and record podcasts and pursue her various ventures, but according to insiders, the fundamental dynamic remains unchanged. Harry expects to be the priority. Harry expects his needs to come first. Harry expects his partner to manage his moods and accommodate his explosions and make him feel like the center of everything. The difference is that Meghan thought she was the one in control, but the power dynamic in Montecito is about to shift dramatically, and what sources are revealing about the changing nature of this marriage is absolutely fascinating. For years, Meghan dictated everything, from what Harry wore in public to how he stood during photographs to the mandatory hand-holding at every single appearance. She allegedly controlled their image with iron precision. Staff members have confirmed that nothing was left to chance. Every outfit was coordinated. Every gesture was choreographed. Every public moment was manufactured to project exactly the image Meghan wanted the world to see. Harry was the compliant accessory, the cooperative partner who followed directions without complaint. At least, that was how it appeared. But that control is crumbling, and the shift is visible to anyone paying attention. Ex-staff revelations paint a picture of a relationship that functioned only because Harry allowed it to function that way. He surrendered control because he was desperate to keep Meghan happy, because he was terrified of losing another relationship, because he genuinely believed she knew better than he did about navigating their new life. But something has changed in recent months. Sources say Harry is taking more of a lead in their public appearances and business decisions. The puppet is allegedly cutting his own strings. The financial reality driving this transformation cannot be overstated. American Riviera Orchard, Meghan's lifestyle brand that was supposed to establish her as a mogul, has been struggling in ways that are genuinely embarrassing. No major investors have materialized despite months of effort. The lavish promises about products and influence have failed to attract the backing needed to make it viable. Meanwhile, all the actual money in their household comes from Harry's inheritance, his book deal, his royal connections. Without him, Meghan has no foundation to build on. When Megxit happened, sources say Meghan sold Harry on a vision of unlimited potential. She had fabulous ideas, she had entertainment industry connections, she had the ambition and talent to turn them into billionaires who would eclipse the royal family in influence and wealth. Harry just needed to trust her, follow her lead, and watch their empire grow. It was an intoxicating pitch, and Harry apparently bought it completely. But years later, with none of those promises materializing, the balance of power has shifted in ways Meghan allegedly never anticipated. One insider described the situation with brutal clarity. Meghan sold him a dream that never came true, and he is finally waking up to that reality. The woman who was supposed to make him relevant is now the one desperate for relevance. The partner who promised independence from royal wealth now needs his royal connections more than ever. The visionary entrepreneur cannot get her business off the ground without the prince she allegedly planned to leave behind once she no longer needed him. Now Meghan is discovering that the man she thought she controlled has a very different side, one that has been lurking beneath the surface all along, waiting for the moment when the power dynamic shifted enough for it to emerge. Staff members have issued warnings about Harry that should make anyone in his orbit deeply uncomfortable. He can just explode at the 11th hour, one source cautioned, and Meghan should be very careful. This is not tabloid speculation or palace gossip designed to undermine the Sussexes. This is coming from people who have worked closely with the couple, who have witnessed Harry's behavior firsthand, who are genuinely concerned about what happens when that volcano finally erupts in Meghan's direction. According to insiders, Harry has moments of explosion that are impossible to predict. Everything can seem fine. The situation can appear completely under control, and then something triggers him, some frustration or perceived slight or obstacle to getting his own way, and the man transforms. One former employee described it as genuinely frightening to witness. The prince, who seems mild and compliant, can allegedly become someone unrecognizable in seconds. The transition is so fast and so complete that people who have not seen it before are left stunned. What triggers these explosions? Sources point to a consistent pattern. When Harry cannot get his own way, when his desires are frustrated, when someone tells him no or challenges his preferences, he becomes volatile. This is exactly what allegedly happened with Chelsea Davy. She wanted to pursue her own life. She wanted independence and autonomy and a career that mattered to her. She told Harry that his vision for their relationship was not acceptable, and according to people who witnessed the fallout, his response was explosive and ugly. The warning from multiple staff members could not be clearer. Meghan should be very careful, because Harry's temper could eventually be directed at her. For years, she has apparently existed in a bubble of control, believing she managed the relationship and dictated its terms. But that control was always contingent on Harry allowing it. The moment he decides he is not getting his way, the moment he feels trapped or frustrated or challenged, all of that carefully constructed dynamic could shatter. And the staff members who have seen Harry's other side are genuinely worried about what happens next. Let us be absolutely clear about what insiders are describing. This is not garden variety marital conflict or occasional arguments that every couple experiences. This is a pattern of explosive behavior that has destroyed previous relationships and left staff members walking on eggshells. This is a temperament that allegedly manifests without warning and leaves destruction in its wake. This is the real Prince Harry, the one hidden behind the sensitive public persona, the one that Meghan is only now beginning to fully comprehend. The royal family seems to already know what Meghan is just discovering, and their coordinated response to Harry's recent attempts at reconciliation reveals exactly how seriously they take the threat he represents. When Harry desperately tried to reconnect with family members during his London visit, something remarkable happened. Every single royal who could have met with him made themselves unavailable at the exact same time. They fled to Scotland like they were escaping a natural disaster. The timing was so precise, so coordinated, that it could not possibly have been coincidental. This was a family-wide decision to avoid Prince Harry at all costs, and the message it sends is devastating. Think about what this means for a moment. Harry is not some distant relative they barely know. He is a son, a brother, a grandson. He grew up in these palaces. He served alongside these people at countless royal events. And yet when he came to London, when he reportedly sought FaceTime with the people who used to be his entire world, they could not get away fast enough. One insider described it as a mass exodus that revealed exactly how the family views Harry now. He is persona non grata in the most literal sense possible. The family knows what Meghan is just discovering. They have seen Harry's explosive behavior for decades. They have witnessed his tantrums, his meltdowns, his inability to control himself when frustrated. They have dealt with the aftermath of his impulsive decisions and watched him burn every bridge he has ever crossed. According to sources within the palace, Harry is considered bad news by virtually everyone who matters. His reputation has been so thoroughly destroyed that no member of the family wants to be associated with him. The isolation is strategic and deliberate. When Harry showed up in London, he was reportedly desperate for any kind of connection. He wanted to see his father. He wanted to reconcile with William. He wanted some acknowledgement that he still belonged, that he was still family, that the door was not permanently closed. But every approach was rebuffed. Every attempt at contact was deflected. The family has clearly decided that engaging with Harry creates more problems than it solves, and they have collectively chosen avoidance as their primary strategy. What does this tell us about the Harry that Meghan married? The royal family has known this man his entire life. They have seen every version of him, from charming to volatile to destructive. They have witnessed his explosive behavior in private settings that the public never sees, and their collective judgment is apparently unanimous. Stay away. Do not engage. Let him rage in California, far from anything that matters. Their coordinated escape to Scotland when Harry came calling speaks louder than any official statement ever could. Back in Montecito, Meghan is realizing she may have made a terrible miscalculation, and the walls of that mansion are closing in on her in ways she never anticipated. In a stunning reversal that nobody could have predicted, Meghan Markle, the woman who allegedly orchestrated Megxit and believed she was escaping to freedom, is now the one who is trapped. The irony is almost too perfect. She helped convince Harry to leave the royal family because they were supposedly imprisoned by duty and tradition. She painted a picture of California liberation, of choosing their own path, of building something magnificent together. But years later, Meghan finds herself in a prison of her own making, one with gilded bars and a view of the Pacific. The new power dynamic could not be clearer to anyone watching closely. With American Riviera Orchard failing to gain traction, with no major investors showing interest, with her entertainment deals producing nothing of lasting value, Meghan's leverage has evaporated. She needs Harry in ways that fundamentally alter their relationship. His inheritance pays the bills. His royal connections provide the access. His name generates the headlines that keep them relevant. Without the prince, Meghan is just another former actress approaching middle age with unrealized ambitions and mounting debts. Sources say Harry is finally recognizing this shift and responding accordingly. He is taking more of a lead in their public appearances. He is asserting himself in business decisions where he previously deferred. He is allegedly beginning to understand that Meghan's grand promises about their California future have not materialized, and that her control over their relationship was always contingent on him believing he needed her more than she needed him. That illusion has shattered, and the man who Meghan thought she had wrapped around her finger is apparently becoming someone quite different. The Chelsea Davy parallel is now impossible to ignore. Anyone who examines the history will recognize that Meghan is living in the exact position that made Chelsea walk away. She is with a man who allegedly expects partners to sacrifice their independence. She is dealing with explosive behavior that can emerge without warning. She is trapped in a dynamic where Harry's needs and moods dominate everything else. The only difference is that Chelsea had the clarity to leave before it was too late. Meghan has 2 children and a lifestyle that requires Harry's money to maintain. One source put it bluntly: she thought she was playing him, but now she is stuck with a man she does not fully understand and cannot easily leave. The public narrative may still portray Meghan as the puppet master, but behind those Montecito walls, the strings have been cut and the power has shifted. She is discovering too late that the compliant prince she thought she married has another side entirely, one that has allegedly destroyed every significant relationship he has ever had. The question now is whether Harry will finally break free, whether he will follow the pattern that ended things with Chelsea and decide that Meghan too has become unacceptable, or whether Meghan can somehow regain control before it is too late. Meghan Markle entered this marriage believing she had won the ultimate prize. She had captured a prince, convinced him to abandon his family and country, and set herself up as the architect of their new life together. She was going to be the power behind the throne, except the throne would be made of Netflix deals and podcast contracts and lifestyle brands worth billions. Harry was supposed to be the famous face while she pulled all the strings. It was a brilliant plan on paper, but court documents have exposed a reality she apparently never anticipated, and the consequences are only beginning to unfold. The revelations paint Harry as volatile, demanding, and increasingly independent. He is not the passive accessory that the world assumed Meghan had molded to her specifications. He is a man with deep-seated patterns of explosive behavior, a man whose previous relationship ended because he allegedly could not tolerate a partner with her own ambitions, a man whose temper is so frightening that staff members have issued explicit warnings about what might happen next. Meghan thought she was the dangerous one in this equation. She was wrong. The ultimate irony cannot be overstated. The woman who helped Harry escape what she called the trap of royal life may now find herself trapped with a man she never truly understood. She sold him a dream of freedom and independence and unlimited potential. She promised they would build an empire together that would make the palace irrelevant, but instead she is stuck in a mansion with diminishing income and failed ventures and a husband whose true nature is becoming impossible to ignore. The liberator has become the prisoner. Staff insiders say Meghan should be very careful, because Harry's explosive nature could change everything at the 11th hour. These are not casual observations. These are warnings from people who have witnessed what happens when Harry does not get his way, who have seen the transformation from charming prince to volatile nightmare, who understand that years of suppressed frustration could erupt at any moment. The powder keg is sitting in Montecito, and no one knows what spark might set it off. The court documents have torn away the carefully constructed narrative that both Harry and Meghan worked so hard to maintain. They have revealed a prince who cannot control himself under pressure, who demanded submission from previous partners, who was told by his own lawyer to shut up and behave. They have exposed a marriage that may be far more volatile than anyone realized, where both parties brought their own dysfunction to create something genuinely combustible. The fairy tale has officially ended, and what remains looks increasingly like a nightmare. Do you think Meghan will try to regain control? Or is this the beginning of the end for the Sussexes? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.